We're having a crisis, guys. We're having a crisis because James and I cannot decide who's taking the lead today in today's show.
Yeah, that's what awkward silence is. Maybe Janko should host. Yeah, Janko, you host.
Welcome to Season 2 of ECS. You can buy tickets at anaheim.csgoleague.com because that's the most important thing. We have free tickets as well, but now we can move on to today's games, to the schedule, please. We can put the games up. We have 4 Mouse Sports games. Let's see if we can keep our sanity throughout the day. And the schedule.
Actually, Janko doesn't have...
Boom. There we go.
Oh, okay, he's going for it. There we go.
And we have FaZe versus Mouse Sports, then we go into Mouse Sports versus Godsent, and to top off the day, at least for EU, Godsent versus Dignitas. So 4 games for Mouse Sports, 4 games for Godsent. We can get a good sense after today where they're going to stand, and will they have a chance to qualify for the LAN finals. Dan, what do you think?
I think...
Oh, God.
That's a lot of Mouse Sports. But I think they're going to take the victories here today because generally they've looked a bit more consistent, a bit better. And they're up against FaZe. FaZe still, for me, are an unknown quantity, and Mouse Sports have somehow found some level of consistency, I feel like.
But do you feel that the consistency that Mouse Sports have found is good? Because, you know, consistently messing up is not really a good thing, James.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
you could say that's been Mouse Sports historically. I mean, I want to say since we commentated, I prefer to say commentated and casted, because casted it just feels like magic wands and stuff.
You can really say whatever you want.
We're not wizards.
It is your show in the end.
Since we commentated them at E-League, since we watched them at E-League, I feel like they have shown some improvement. You know, they had a coach, the coach left, but I think they're going in a better direction than they were before.
Lowell seems to be fitting in
quite well.
I thought you were going
I was going to say nicely, but I was like...
Let's just leave it there.
He seems to be fitting in.
He seems to be fitting in, yeah. Well, I might be a bit too harsh on Mouse Sports. They did qualify for the playoffs in E-League, managed to clinch top 4 at Pro League finals as well. So result-wise, they've been doing good. It's just that, you know, watching them play, making these silly mistakes every now and then, you feel like they have the potential to achieve more, but somehow it seems like they just hit a brick wall.
Janko, I heard from the producer that the leaderboard's ready.
The leaderboard is ready.
The leaderboard.
Yeah,
we can see it. I just wanted to, you know, hear your opinions first, but time is of the essence, so we can move to the leaderboard now and see who is leading at the board. It's Fnatic.
The board of leadership. Well, Mouse Sports, they've got 4 games today, right? So they've got 6 points, they've won 2 for 2, they've got 6 of 12 points at the moment, but again, there's
mathematical skills on point, James.
I know, right? There's such a disparity in the games played between these teams that like Mouse Sports could end up further up than they are now.
They can't go lower, James. They can't go lower.
I mean, they could end up joint second with FaZe and Envy. Well, yeah. I mean, if FaZe lose their matches today, then they could end up joint second. So really, what is, you know, there's only so much to comment on.
Dan, on to you.
Well, I mean, the thing that's interesting for me is Godsent, and because today, obviously, well, you know, with all lineup turmoil and so on, and the fact that they've been having problems finding an identity, finding performances, because they have so many maps today, the 4 maps, that's going to give us a very good indication as to where they stand. And their form today, of all days, matters the most. So I'm curious to see how they progress. And I think they are probably the most significant of the teams today that's playing.
And their opposition perhaps is not as difficult. I mean, Mouse Sports, sure, a good team. Maybe even a better team online. And Dignitas, yes, very strong at the moment. But after that run at Epicenter and after they came back from Pro League, seems that like they did quiet down a little bit, especially in the ECS. They're looking very shaky. Their chances of qualifying are not at their best, so to speak. So good chance for Godsent to gain some ground.
I'm looking forward to this Dust 2 when we get there between Mouse Sports and Godsent, because I mean JW is playing really well yesterday, and it was, you know, I think the style matchup is going to be a lot better than say when Mouse Sports played Cloud9 at E-League on Dust 2, which was just a very one-sided affair in favour of Mouse Sports. I think the style clash is going to be really interesting. So that's, I would say, for me, that's the match I'm most looking forward to today, at least in the European region.
What do you think about the first game, Dan? FaZe versus Mouse Sports. They play Overpass. FaZe hasn't played it until the addition of Alu, pretty much only played it once and lost, but seems to be one of their strongest maps now.
Yeah, I think FaZe always had some amount of reliability on Overpass. I think just because it's one of those maps, like kind of a cache, where you can get a lot of open angels, and there are players that can make individual plays pretty effectively. And worst come worst, if you don't have the best T side in the world on that map, sure, there's a lot of depth you can have on the CT side, but they're not a team that needs to go to the depth, because you have that width of options on Overpass. You can play fairly passively, and so I think they can get a lot of advantages just with their individual skill. But I feel if they have a bad CT side, I feel like it's done. But
what do you think about the change that they made recently? They brought in Keo in the active lineup instead of Jacob. Do you think that's a good move, or do you think Jacob did okay for his role?
I actually think that it might be. I feel like maybe Jacob didn't necessarily get the chances with his role on the team, because it's already a hard team to fit into from a role perspective. But I feel like Jacob, you often see him in spots where he's probably not going to get a lot of frags. And Jacob is actually kind of could be or can be a mad fragger. So I feel like he was hindered by playing with FaZe. So I actually think this is probably a good swap. Whether Kiyoshima fits in as the player that can be happy not getting as many frags, I don't know, because I feel like Kiyoshima is actually a player that wants to be explosive. So I think it might be more of the same.
James, is Keo the solution?
I'm not a fan of roster changes based on form, because what if Kishima has bad form in the next month or two? Do they swap them back? Do they just keep swapping until someone has good form? What if they have good form and they have bad form again? I mean, look at Virtus Pro, for example. I don't know that that's necessarily the solution. Obviously, Jacob had a really strong partnership with Fox, especially over towards the bomb sites. That's gone now. But not only has that gone, it's not a case of Fox has gone in as another replacement. Now Alu's Yorp, and he's not over here. He's not in this little cubbyhole where Fox was. He's everywhere. So that changes a lot of dynamics on the team. Maybe Kishima will fit in better than Jacob in the new dynamics. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. But what I am thinking now is that we have so many exiled players from FaZe. What if like Makalele, Jacob, Fox, Sky Kitten, and some other guy all make a FaZe, an ex-FaZe, a FaZe alumni or whatever?
FaZe.2.
Yeah. What do you think about
FaZe is set to stun?
About the JChem Kiyoshima swap, Janko?
I think Kiyoshima is a more complete player, also more experienced playing at the biggest stage, at the highest level. He's a major champion, let's not forget that either. 2-time, actually, yeah. So I think Jacob has been underperforming for a while, and sure, even if you have that role of an entry fragger, sometimes it can be difficult, but it's also the CT sides you need to look at, made some mistakes in decision-making as well. People wonder if he wasn't a Norwegian or, Rain's friend, would he be in the team for that long even? Would he be the one remaining in the team initially after the swap? Would it be him or Keo? So I think this might be an improvement for FaZe, and people need to remember Jacob was a star, Norwegian star after Rain in that LGB team. He was really a hot prospect, similar to what AZ was when he was brought over from Dignitas, and it's really been a long time since we saw him, perform throughout the tournament, even just one tournament on that level. On top of that, he does seem from the outside, at least a little bit to me, like a nervous player. Like sometimes the nerves get to him, which might be an addition as to why he underperformed. Maybe put a bit too much pressure on himself even.
What do you think? Where would you like to see him go most, Jacob? That is.
That's a really tough question in a sense that there are not that many options for him right now. Perhaps a team like Epsilon. I'm not really sure Swedish, Norwegian. I think it's similar, and some Norwegians like Vendetta can speak Swedish pretty decently. So, maybe a team like that, which is also more loose, more room for him to do, whatever he wants, be the star of that team, so to speak. Why not?
What happened to Fetish? Where did he go?
He's a teacher or something, like.
Oh, okay. So he's
kindergarten, I think, something like that. Moved on to greener pastures. Course.
I think I saw him on a deathmatch server like once, but I was thinking because if you had all those exiles, you need an in-game leader, right?
Yes, but remember that Fetish was replaced because people weren't, agreeing with the way he led the team. That's why Kerrigan was brought in initially into that Dignitas lineup, which is now Astralis. So there's a question of that. Although the meta has shifted a little bit more to tactical style, so maybe there's room for him. The question is when someone has been out of the scene for so long, whether he is able to mount that comeback.
Yeah, well, RPK did. It took a while, but I feel like he's pretty monstrous at the moment. Once he's got used to everything once again.
A bit different to leading, though, I'd say.
Of course it is, yeah. But it was interesting when we were in Malaysia. I think it was Vendetta who made a comment about Fetish put a good framework in for Australis' CT side, some of which is still there, and then Caravan came in and built up the T sides as well, because they were known as a notoriously CT-sided team back in the day.
Yes, but we also need to look at how the meta has shifted since then. The round time difference is probably the biggest thing, 10 extra seconds. That's a lot more time to work with for the Ts. The utility isn't as strong as it used to be with the smokes and molotovs. You can't buy as much time. And in general, the level of play has just risen. Teams have found new way to adapt to things, especially on the T side, to be more aggressive. And I think that's the reason why, amongst others, they're not as strong of a CT-sided team as before. Because they were like a 10-plus CT-sided team than the Danes. Oh, yeah, I don't have an earpiece. We probably should have figured that out. So apparently, we're having some issues. Is that correct?
No, it's just time for the break.
Just time for a break. Great, we don't have any issues, so let's go to break. Break.